So my name is Doug Jerum from Ferrara Jerum International, based out of Rochester, New York. We are a real estate brokerage firm. We specialize in tenant representation, but over the last few years also have expanded into property leasing and investment sales. But going back for 25 years, we've spent most of our time representing tenants, including Walmart, Starbucks, LA Fitness, Kohl's, and folks like that. So we've watched, a lot of things happen in the industry, a lot of changes, and nothing more dramatic than what's going on now. So what I was going to talk a little bit about is, I've been thinking a lot about where things are going, and for a business like ours and other folks that are doing the same thing that we are, and from our perspective, where's the new business coming from? Where's it going? How do we advise our clients, developers, tenants on at least our opinion of what they should be doing with their projects, how they should be structuring them, designing them, things like that. So what I'm going to kind of talk briefly about or focus on today is, what kind of retail, do I think will be successful going forward and make projects successful. And I think it comes down to that if you think of the population distribution, you think of the age groups, if you kind of draw a line at about 40 years old and think of it as a sort of a moving wall, everything on the younger side of that is sweeping away everything that we thought to be true. And when you're thinking about long term on developing or re-tenanting a property, you need to, if not be specifically tenanting for those on the younger side of that, but certainly be planning to go that direction. And to me, what that means is that pretty much everything needs to involve an experience in one way or another, because that's where those folks on the younger side of that wall want to spend their money. And what that means, I believe, is that it's not just about being entertained necessarily, but that your haircut, your gym, even the things you do in an everyday necessity kind of way, the things that we talk about that are internet proof, they're not boring proof. And if you're boring, you're probably not going to win. And so you got to figure out how not to be boring and how to be. Okay.
So who's the hot tenant?
Core life. Those. So that's another part of where things, in my opinion, are going to go or are going, is that it's not about national corporate expansion. That's going to be the exception, not the norm. The tenants are going to be regional guys like Core Life, homegrown type of concepts.
Will there be another Walmart?
Certainly not of that size. There's no need for that much space, really. At the end of the day, even Walmart has gotten smaller, but Walmart's not Walmart anymore. So no, I don't think there will.
Will Walmart be here in 50 years? Or will there be a Kmart?
Don't know. 50 years is a really long time, so the answer to that is I don't know. But in the shorter term, and in very recently, they seem to be making some positive, intelligent moves towards staying relevant.
Which is?
Purchase of Jet.com, not building more stores, putting the money into e-commerce. Most of their CapEx is for e-commerce, and I think that's right. I think that's correct. They have a great distribution network, right? They have 4,000 stores. So they're, if you're designing a shopping center today, you make sure that you can divide your spaces up into 1,000 feet, 800 feet. Think bonobos and those kind of footprints as what you need to be able to do. If you've got 120, 150 foot deep spaces, you're gonna have a problem in the long run.
being that you've done 60 Walmarts, how do you feel about Target now downsizing? I mean, they're a massive company too. Everyone says, hey, I shop Target, No one shops Walmart. But when I walk into Walmart, the parking lot is full. There's 40 lanes that are open. They're 10 people deep. The shopping carts are overflowing. Then I walk into a Target, which supposedly everyone shops. I don't see it like that.
I think it's just your circle of people that you're in contact with. What's it?
Walmart and Target.
I actually do a lot of shopping online.
Why?
Convenient, easy, shows up on my doorstep. I don't have to go anywhere. It's just, and that's actually, if you think about that, my business is retail, and I like getting stuff coming to my house. That's a pretty big thing to think about. So, the winners, I think, services, food, and entertainment, but all of those things need to provide an experience. Some of the interesting things that are going on entertainment-wise, seeing some kind of the amusement park coming to the mall. You're going to see some pretty interesting anchors at some of the malls, I think, that are strictly replacing department store boxes with things that'll drive traffic. Some interesting areas to watch that haven't been figured out yet, but are worth watching. So, how many people are familiar with eSports? eSports. Okay.
What's eSports?
So, gaming as a sport. Okay. Right. Except it's not, right? So, this year eSports will be a $700 million industry. That's a 41% year-on-year growth over last year. Okay. By 2020, it'll be 1.2 billion. Among millennial esports enthusiasts, so that's somebody who will watch an esport event once a month, versus a sports enthusiast, so that would be somebody who has watched this particular sport once in the last 3 months. 14% of millennial esports enthusiasts have watched an esport versus 18% have watched hockey. So, said another way, in the millennial group, esports are almost as popular as hockey. Now, that's not the NFL, granted, but since 2 people raised their hand, knowing even what it was,
Raise your hands.
think about that.
I know, I've heard of it. I know that it fills arenas, but I didn't know that it was called eSports.
So, talk about arenas. So, for another data point on that, so every year there's a game called Dota, or Dota 2, and they have a tournament in August called the International. The prize pool for that tournament is $20 million. It's a crowd-funded prize pool. The winning team took home $9 million last year. Think about that. $9 million for one team winning this tournament. It takes place in Seattle in the Key Arena, 17,000 seats, completely sold out. So that goes against the common perception of people playing games are in their house, they don't come out, nobody ever sees the sun. 17,000 people in Seattle watch this tournament live. And what that speaks to is that people that are interested in this are not people that are afraid to come out of their house. They want to socialize with other people. So I think it's a very interesting area. What's the implication? If you think about it, what are the implications, or not? How do traditional sports impact retail? So if you take that and then apply it to esports, there will be an impact. And so again, what it's going to be, still very early, but I think it's a very interesting space to watch.
Do you think that there'll be 20,000 foot boxes filled up in shopping centers dedicated to esports?
So right now, what's going on? Yes and no. So here in Las Vegas, they announced at Luxor, they're building a 20,000 square foot. They're replacing a nightclub with an eSports arena, 20,000 feet for competitions. There's another one going downtown here. There's a group out of Southern California that has in Orange County built an eSports arena. They've got one going in Oakland, and they're actually the ones doing the one here in Vegas. So there's some of that. Merchandise. These are teams. They're developing personalities. They're developing, the Michael Jordan of eSports, who right now happens to be this Korean kid who's 20 years old by the name of Faker. Whole nother discussion, but they're working on developing, people that, so you can drive merchandise sales. So, who's going to open the first eSports retail store selling jerseys and, hats and all that. So there's a lot of merchandise opportunities around it. So we'll see. We don't, it remains to be seen exactly how it plays out. Sports bars. Buffalo Wild Wings plays eSports. They're doing more with that. So we'll see.
Did you think 716 was going to be as popular as it is? I did. I didn't see it coming.
I don't know.
What is 716?
It's a sports bar.
People that own the Buffalo Bills and the Sabres.
Yeah.
And these guys spent ridiculous amount of money. That is like the hottest place in Buffalo.
Yeah, there's the pro sports attraction, I think, helps quite a bit. And it's for downtown, it's pretty unique. Another interesting area to watch is what's called location-based virtual reality. So for all of the talk about virtual reality in the home, it's doing okay, but that may not be where it really takes hold. So if you think about, you may not want to learn how to set this up. You may not want to buy it, but you may be interested to go out and have an experience somewhere where you can buy a ticket and go, take a walk through maybe a museum that is actually 2,000 miles away from you, or through an aquarium, or scaling a mountain and do it all in the same visit. So there's a lot of activity happening around that, and what's very interesting about that is it takes up a lot of space, right? So there's an answer for some of your larger spaces to be filled for those who get it right. Again, still getting figured out. People still it's still very early days. Nobody's developed yet the killer location-based VR, and they're trying. Not very good yet, but it will be pretty soon. Next year or two, somebody will have one that blows everybody away. There's some interesting ones. The Ghostbusters exhibit in Manhattan at Madame Tussauds is very good, but it's got some issues as well. But it's interesting. Definitely will be in shopping centers, that kind of thing. And as I started to say, beyond some of those interesting sort of technologically driven developments, you better know how to prospect locally and or regionally to fill the shopping centers. Is the day of being able to just call on corporate and roll out a whole bunch of stores, for the most part is gone. Those certainly select opportunities, particularly in higher end retail, tends to be more corporate. But beyond that, learn how to work with franchisees and learn how to work with franchises. The majority of new concepts will come from franchise. So that's, on a more practical here and now basis. That is where the growth is going to be. That's where the new concepts are coming from.
Question for you. You have younger kids.
Mm-hmm.
Where do they shop?
Well, the only thing they buy is video games. And so I actually had this conversation with someone last night. No. But they can't get there either. So they're of that age that if they're going, we're taking them. But they don't have an interest either. The only place they shop, is either online or at GameStop. And they only shop at GameStop because they can trade things in. But when that ends, when physical media is not sold anymore, when the game publishers decide that they're done, that will be it for GameStop. Don't know when that is. Could be sooner, could be later, but when that happens, that'll be a big problem for them, and I'm not sure that they can
Social
survive.
media for your children. What's their platform that they really jump on? Is it Instagram? Is it Facebook? Is it Twitter?
My younger kids aren't on anything. A little bit of Instagram.
No Facebook?
My kids are not necessarily great examples. They're not big into social media. No Facebook, but that's, that hasn't, we haven't allowed that yet. So maybe somebody else have a better answer for that.
Only talks to me through Snapchat, and I have no idea how to use Snapchat. So if you message me and I catch it, I'm able to read it. If not, I'm SOL, right? Because I have no idea how it works. But yeah, it seems like a lot of the younger individuals use Snapchat. That's my only means of communication.
I hear that younger and younger people are not on Facebook.
I don't know why.
I think that's true. I think Instagram, I think, is still pretty popular with my daughter set up an Instagram for her dog. He's got
That's great. That's great. That's very funny. So that's really it. I mean, so small retail, franchises, local, regional.
I heard what you said about knowing how to canvas, which is always true. Classically, when the national retailers contracted, the mom and pops would come back into the market, and that goes to what you're saying, is to canvas door to door. However, with this recent recession, the money was so tight, and I think it still is. Mom and pops weren't there either. Are you feeling that they're beginning to come back into the market? Are you feeling it where you are?
Hey, from what we've seen, it part of that canvassing is figuring out, who's doing well. So it's kind of a combination of canvassing for folks that are in the right businesses. It's a hard skill, because you not only have to, be able to go out and knock on the doors, but then you also have to figure out who's a good operator. You need to know how to look at somebody's, assess somebody's financial condition. It's when it was all mostly national retailers, pretty easy. A lot of them are public companies, or you can get a pretty, generally a good picture of their health or not. But with local or even regionals, it's a lot harder. You got to really, know how to look at somebody's financial statement and understand, if they're a good bet. So it takes, it's skills that I don't know that everybody, sort of here has or has had to use in a long time. But those who are good at it will do well. And the centers that they're in will do well. It becomes a whole different thing for how you value those centers, and, what's the cap rate on a center that has one national and everybody else is local or regional. In some ways you could argue if they're good operators, it's a better investment than a bunch of nationals who's the next one to go bankrupt. So it brings up some interesting questions. I don't know what you guys feel about that. I mean, it makes it harder for the net lease guys to do stuff, but maybe a better property if it's got some good locals in it.
What do you think is going to be the next triple net tenant to go bankrupt?
Now, who do you think? I hadn't thought about that, but do you have an idea? Yeah, I'd have to think about it.
I know. Sears.
Yeah, that's probably right.
That means Kmart.
Yep.
Doug actually does work for Sears.
Yeah.
Can you tell
But that's not Sears.
Yeah.
Spin-off, but
No, not this. It's not really. It's a separate publicly traded REIT, disconnected from Sears.
how much is Lampert own of Sears?
I do not know.
What's the strategy behind Saratoga?
They took a basket of Sears. Some of them have a lot of value. Some of them are being completely redeveloped, ground up, mixed use. Some pretty amazing projects that they've got. There's some really high quality locations. Some of them will be very challenging. It's a very mixed bag of things. but as a whole, the good will outweigh the bad, and I think they'll do well. They have some really, really well located assets. So, and they're making progress. They are making deals. They are getting stuff done. Took a little while to get going, but they put a good team in place, and things are getting done now.
You have time for one more question?
Sure.
How will tech affect this show in general? What do you foresee long term with a show like this and how it's going to play out?
That's a good question. Well, I'm not sure I have a direct answer for that, but what I will say as it relates to tech and real estate is that there's a lot of there's a long way to go before anybody's going to tell us that our industry is tech savvy. We are pretty much at the caboose of the train, so to speak, as far as technology goes. So the good news is there's enormous opportunity if you can develop technology that can be used by people in the industry in a productive way. But it's also a hard industry to get people to really make good use of technology. So it's an interesting challenge. We'll have to see, what happens. Nobody has really come out with, any particular killer app, on a leasing or brokerage or, anything like that. So we'll see. Great.
Thank you very much, Doug.
Thank you.
That was, great.
Thank you very much.
Pam, you ready?
I'm ready, but I'll come on.
Okay, let me, I just want to stop so I can do a second.